we came with. We'll go with item number 1, which is a resolution. Oops. Google's talking to me. Sorry about that. My phone thought I was asking you questions. Mr. Engineer, you want to go through the highlights on item 1 and then we'll turn it over to Luke?
Yeah, so some of you, well, I think Kelly, you were the only one around when we did the first half of South 6th Street. Whenever MnDOT does a project within city limits that requires some right-of-way acquisition, we have to go through a process called municipal consent. So it's basically giving MnDOT the go-ahead to begin design or final design of the proposed layout of the. So in this case, we're talking about South 6th Street from where we left off at Joseph Street down to Greenwood Street. That's the reconstruction section. They're also doing a mill and overlay from Greenwood Street down to close to the bypass where they left off here a couple of years ago. Really, the layout of the highway is not changing. The 3-lane section is remaining for the portion that we're talking about. There are some additional concrete medians that are being added in a few areas along there. You'll recall from when we got awarded some federal sidewalk funding from Transportation Alternatives for a sidewalk project from Buffalo Hills Lane up to Joseph Street. We actually turned that money over to MnDOT to design that sidewalk into this project. And they are covering the 20% construction cost match that we would have had to pay. So we're really getting that sidewalk that we were awarded grant funding for at no cost to us. So I also attached to the agenda request something that we were provided from MnDOT regarding any cost share items that we would be responsible for come construction in 2022. We have a couple of utility replacements that we're going to be taking on in-house, just a couple of water crossings that BPU wants replaced. And we have some exploratory investigation of a water main leak or potential water main leak at the intersection of Industrial Park Road. Other portions of the project include a realigning of Greenwood Street at the intersection of South 6th Street. So MnDOT will be realigning that to come in perpendicular to the highway for better sight distance. And then as part of that, we're going to finish paving Greenwood Street back to Woodland Hills Lane just to finish that road off. That is a state aid street, and so we can use state aid funds for that. So basically, I mean, we're here to, I can pull up the layout for your guys' review. If you have any questions of me or Luke, you can certainly ask those at this time. Really, I put a couple options in front of you tonight. One is to adopt a resolution that basically gives municipal consent to MnDOT, or we can go the other route and schedule a public hearing to receive any public comment for the proposed layout at the December 21st meeting. So 2 options. And I guess I'll open it up to either Luke or any committee questions that folks may have.
Let's go with Luke first. Luke, do you have anything you want to add?
No, Paul covered it pretty well. Yeah, it's just essentially it's a 2022 construction project. So like Paul said, we're just in that next phase where we're going to be starting right-of-way acquisition right now. Our right-of-way agents are starting to talk to the people that are affected either by temporary easement, not too much permanent right-of-way needing to be acquired on this project, but a lot of temporary stuff for construction limits and stuff to fit that trail and sidewalk in and everything. And then, you know, our final design unit's going to be picking it up here this winter to start final design. So this is kind of a, you know, turning point of the project.
Thank you, Luke.
Chair, one thing I wanted to add. On our next item, we have some right-of-way discussions about the same project. You can see on your screen there's a storm pond at the corner of Spruce Drive and the frontage road. That is a portion of the right of way that MnDOT will be acquiring. You can see kind of the preliminary pond layout. This, in general, we have some flooding in this area that you can see on your screen. So this stormwater retention project will be mutually beneficial to both the city, and then MnDOT needs some extra stormwater volume capacity for the new highway. So really, it's a project that we're working on together to solve not only the city's issue, but to help MnDOT relieve their stormwater issues also. One other thing that we'll be responsible for is one signal leg at the intersection. We have one street, Buffalo Hills Lane, that comes into the intersection. So our cost there is 25% of that signal, which is, I think the preliminary costs of that signal are $250,000 total. So we'll be responsible for 25% of that, about $75,000.
Perfect.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Jan.
since I'm not very good at these things, are we going to have sidewalk on both sides of the street on that up until Buffalo Hills? Like we do in the Warren?
If I may, Mr. Chair, no, that is not the case, Jan. So you can see the pink on
The pink?
on
Okay,
the bottom side of the road there. That's the sidewalk we were funded for federal funds. The grades on the north side of the highway, if you know kind of what the section looks like, are pretty steep from the west
Yeah.
frontage road to the highway. And there's just no way you could get a sidewalk in there. Really, the only spot we can
do it is
easily
there.
fit one is on the south side of the highway. Is that correct, Luke, in saying that?
Yeah, we couldn't get a sidewalk in between the frontage road and the trunk highway.
Okay. And then you still, and you're also planning on having sidewalks going south past Buffalo Hills? Did I hear you right?
No, there is no
yes.
sidewalk
Okay.
that way.
Okay, got it.
Really ends at Buffalo Hills Lane and connects into the trail there, Dan.
Okay, alrighty. Thanks. Thank you guys for letting me do that.
Sure, Jan. Wayne, any questions?
No, I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Paul, the only questions I have are the dark red in the center of the yellow. Those are medians. Yes?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then question number 2 is, with our 2 choices, it almost always seems like it's in the best interest of the public to hold the public hearing, as opposed to, although truth be told, I don't think there's any reason why we need to. It just always seems like a good idea. Any comments on that, Paul, Jan, or Wayne?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I did speak with the council president, and I think he is in favor of that too. So I think that's something that he'll be pushing for, is to just take comments at the next meeting. And so
Yeah,
that's the only comment I have.
I think we should.
Mhm.
Okay, so Jan, did I hear you were making a motion to
Sure.
recommend option number 2, which is the public hearing at the 21st at 7:30?
Yes, that's correct. I'm making that motion.
And
Also
Wayne,
number-
are you, all right, any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Engineer, would you call the roll?
Lambert,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes,
Bevins.
Yes, okay, so we'll go with the public hearing. Let's go with item number 2, which is also the 6th Street reconstruction to establish the right-of-way for the storm water that Paul just explained to us.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for MnDOT to be able to expend funds on this stormwater pond, it needs to be designated as right of way. MnDOT's got some rules about expending trunk highway funds on trunk highway purposes only. Being that this is a city lot currently, the city owns the lot closest to the frontage road. You can see I'm circling it right here. We need to designate that lot as MnDOT right of way, or basically right of way. And then MnDOT was going to be working on acquiring these 2 empty lots here for the rest of the stormwater pond. So really, this resolution designates the city parcel right here as right of way. And that allows them to expend trunk highway funds on that stormwater pond construction.
Any questions of the engineer?
Mr. Chair, this is Jan.
Jan? Yeah,
Paul, I'm going to bring this up do we have to put any barrier, is there any barriers that the city or MnDOT have to put around that pond?
You know, Jan, we usually provide some safeguards. We usually provide fencing.
Okay.
Luke's still on the line.
Yep.
Hey, Luke, is your guys' general, are you going to follow city standard on that stormwater pond since it's going to be a city maintained basin in the future?
Yeah, correct. We would
Fencing
have
and
to,
that kind of stuff.
yeah, typically we wouldn't put a fence or anything around it, but yeah, it would be determined by the city ordinances or conditions of the ponding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
We usually do fence in our ponds.
Do you? Okay. Okay.
Any other questions for Luke or Paul? Hearing none, we're looking for a motion to accept the staff recommendation and adopt the attached resolution, which dedicates Lot 5, Block 2, South Edgewood Addition to the public as road and utility right of way. Is that to the
I'll make that
public
motion.
or to MnDOT?
That's to the public. It's all
Okay.
public right of way.
And I'll second that.
We got a motion by Wayne, second by Jan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Engineer, would you call the roll?
Lambert,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes. All right. Luke, you're free to go, and I imagine we'll start at 7:30, but I wouldn't think we'll actually come up until closer to 6:45 or so. 7.
All right. I'll be listening in then. It probably wouldn't be too much
Alright.
discussion anyways, on this being we're pushing.
I
the-
can't imagine that there would, but
Yeah.
I sure appreciate you coming on board just in case there is.
Yep. Yeah, I'll sit in. So,
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke.
Yeah, bye.
All right. Item number 3 is the garbage can placement exemption criteria. Mr. Engineer, you want to hit the highlights on this one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you know, at the last council meeting, we adopted some revised ordinance language regarding garbage collection. A couple of the big highlighted items are garbage pickup in alleys, if alleys are available, and the time frame of which you can place your can out being from 6 p.m. the night before and pulling your can in the day of service. So one item that came up is some of these lots or corner lots or other lots that, you know, they either don't have the ability to bring a can back. They don't have access to even though they're on the alley, they don't have access. The driveway might go to the street and they don't have any driveway or anything back to the alley to assist them in placing their can out. And so what the council wanted us to consider is making an exemption or thinking of some criteria that we could formulate an application or a simple application for residents to fill out to get this exemption. And so the community development director and myself, we met to discuss this criteria, and we found that there's probably 3 cases that are going to cover us in 99% of our situations. The first one is non-adequate garage or driveway access to the alley. What we're defining as adequate access is an area an owner or a tenant would on a regular basis reasonably maintain during the year for purposes of accessing their property for parking, access or storage needs. An exemption to the alley pickup would be granted if the owner or tenant did not have adequate access to place a can out. So basically, if you don't have a driveway, you don't have a garage or a need to maintain a pathway to the rear of your house from the alley, that would be a circumstance that we would grant an exception to that. And so that would really take care of our corner lots. I know there was a gal at the corner of 12th Street Southeast. Her garage faced the street and driveway in which she placed her can out faced the street. She had a fence along the alley, which there was no way she could reasonably pull a can out without going all the way to the street and pulling it around the block to get it to the alley. That would cover that situation. The other two exemption criteria, one is basically properties that don't have any driveway to the street or alley. We would grant an exemption if physical barriers to placement exist. So any physical object such as a fence without a gate, a garage that basically covers the whole back side of the property, where you can't physically get a can back there without traveling across another person's property or jumping a fence or doing something crazy like that. Basically, if there's a physical barrier or the route is just too long to get to the backyard, to get to the alley, that is a circumstance where we would grant an exception. And then the last one is, of course, if like the owner or tenant has to traverse across another private property due to being landlocked or any situation like that. We have some corner lots that it may look like there's access to an alley, but there's another lot between the two that's not owned by the property owner. They wouldn't be expected to place their cans out in the alley. I think those three really cover us for any exemptions that would come up. We would then, if these are approved tonight, we would make an application, keep it pretty simple, basically the property address, a diagram showing us where they'll place their can, and a reasoning for the exemption. They could just write a statement or draw a picture or do something where we could look at it either on Google Maps or a drive-by to make sure that what they're saying is correct and true, and that they wouldn't be able to place it in the alley. So the haulers have been working on sending us some information regarding the properties they feel don't have any alley access. And so we're continuing to work with them. We've been getting some calls today. Some of those letters have gone out to residents, and they've been asking for this exemption application already. So we feel that these are the three criteria that would be good to adopt tonight. I guess we'll take any comments from you guys now regarding these.
Jan or Wayne, any comments or questions of Paul?
No, Mr. Chair, I think I appreciate the city staff thinking this through, and no, I totally agree. This is a good approach. Good approach.
Good. And
Jan?
Mr. Chair, I just lost it. Oh, that's bad, isn't it? When you just lose it just like that. The haulers. Have the haulers reviewed this? I mean, it's our policy, but have they reviewed it too and feeling okay?
Yeah, so actually, Jan, Waste Partners sent out their letters today. They formulated a list of property owners that they feel they can't service from the alley.
Okay.
Those are going to be issued automatic exemptions. They have a list of about 110 properties. At least Waste Partners has about 110 properties. They feel could potentially have alley access, but choose to go to the street. Those folks were given a letter that says that the city changed their ordinance. You may be subject to placing your can in the alley. Here's the phone number to call City Hall if you want an exemption application. Otherwise, give us a call and switch your can to the alley.
Okay.
So they sent that out today. We've been getting some calls already about it. So
Okay.
if they want to apply for an exemption, it'll be available to them. Hopefully, right after the first of the year, we're going to create this application and start sending them out to people that have requested them. They would have that exemption certificate or signed application by the city that they could give to any hauler that they choose, that they are exempt from the alley pickup criteria.
And then just another question would that go with the property or would that go with the owner?
That would
That
go with the
certificate.
property. Yep. So I would
Okay.
hope that if there was a property transfer, we would keep this on file too.
Okay.
That, if there was an exemption granted for a property, for example, 610 10th Avenue Northeast, we would keep that on file. And if there was ever an issue with them placing it in the street and we are having issues with it plowing, we would just let them know that they do have an exemption, and just to make sure that they're at least pulling their can in and making sure it's behind the curb and things.
Okay. Okay. Well, Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a motion if,
Hang on one sec, Jan. I got just a couple comments,
okay,
if I may, Jan. Paul, I presume the applications will be handled through city staff unless there's a dispute.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. We figured that this should be an administrative process.
That's what I was thinking. And the other thing is, as we're sending out applications as well as notices, and you mentioned notices from one of our haulers, I hope across everything that goes out, and I'd like to make sure this is stressed make sure that people know that there is limitations as to how long you can leave your garbage container out, regardless of whether it's in the alley or on the street or wherever, because that's what prompted this in the first place.
I'll actually, since we have some time here, Mr. Chair, I will pull up the email or the letter that went out by Waste Partners. It was very good, very detailed. Pull that up here real quick.
and Mr. Chair, this is Jan. I think we also need to make aware it doesn't make any difference whether you're on vacation or not. And that's for me.
Yeah, that's why I smiled.
Yeah, so I mean, look at your screen here, guys. It basically covers, the city of Brainerd passed a new ordinance. Trash and recycling are now required to be placed in the alley for collection unless an exemption that must be contested with the city of Brainerd is given. And trash and recycling receptacles are allowed out for collection no earlier than 6 p.m. the night before collection and removed by end of the day. And so
Perfect.
they cover it pretty well. They did a good job of writing the letter. I'm hoping the rest of our haulers do this. I'm going to be sending out this letter, I think, to the rest of the other haulers so they have an idea of what's already been sent out to the customers. And so hopefully, people are calling City Hall, they're getting the application. If they feel they should be exempt, they feel they meet the criteria, get them an application, they can fill it out and send it back in, and we'll look at it and issue an exemption if they meet the criteria.
Excellent. Any further questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to recommend the 3 criteria as stated by our engineer to the council?
This is Lambert, and I do make a motion for approval of the
Thank you.
3.
Second.
Any
Second.
further discussion? Hearing
Excellent
none.
job.
Hearing none, Mr. Engineer, would you call the roll?
Lambert,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yeah,
Evans,
Yes. So Paul, I'm sure that motion passes. I'm sure it would be nice if you would restate those during the actual council meeting. Jan, do you want to press those 3 dots before we adjourn? And it'll say mirror image. It says mirror my video.
No, that's not it, Kelly. That actually flips your camera not from the rear to the front, but it mirrors the actual image that you're looking at. And so
I see. You have to go camera, and then it'll say Microsoft Camera front or Microsoft Camera rear.
Yep.
That's what you do, Jan. It's the bottom choice. You got to figure it out, kiddo.
Or she already leave.
Oh, there she is. You're muted.
Hey.
Okay, I'm back on, and now you're going to see all my kitties. My kitty here.
That's why we wanted to do this. So, all right, we're adjourned until 7:30. Okay.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
Kelly-
guys then.